Welcome to the True Crime Storyteller. This video contains audio only. If you want to see images from the true crime stories, check out my Instagram account and tap the follow button to stay tuned. On a warm summer evening in Beverly Hills on August 20th, 1989, something occurred that would forever disrupt the serene, luxurious facade of this part of Los Angeles. This was a neighborhood of power, wealth, and seemingly insurmountable success, where Hollywood stars and business moguls lived in chic villas, shielded from the worries of the outside world. But behind the imposing doors of the house on Elm Drive, a dark secret was hidden, one that would soon come to light in the most tragic way. Jose and Kitty Menendez appeared to lead the perfect life. Jose was an unshakable figure in the entertainment industry, a Cuban immigrant who had built an empire from nothing and fought his way to the top. He had a sharp mind and an unrelenting work ethic that had helped him achieve high positions at companies like RCA Records and Live Entertainment. Under his leadership, major deals were made, and he was both feared and respected by his colleagues. He embodied the American dream, someone who had reached the heights of success through hard work and determination. Kitty, a beautiful woman who once harbored acting ambitions, was always by his side. But behind her well-kept appearance, she struggled with deep emotional issues, including depression and alcohol dependence. Their sons, Lyle and Eric, were the heirs to this privileged world. At first glance, they were typical Beverly Hills kids, raised with money, luxury, and opportunities. Lyle, the oldest, was a charismatic young man studying at Princeton, while Eric, the younger, had emerged as a promising tennis talent. But behind the facade of wealth and privilege, something dark was brewing in the Menendez family, something that was about to explode. That sultry summer evening, Jose and Kitty would take their last breaths in their stately home. As Jose watched television on the couch in the living room, and Kitty had withdrawn upstairs for a nap, danger crept closer. No one could have suspected what was about to happen. The sound of gunshots shattered the silence of the night. Bullets tore through the bodies of the Menendez parents as the attackers mercilessly completed their mission. Jose was shot in the head and chest, killed instantly. Kitty, who ran downstairs in a desperate attempt to escape, was hit by a barrage of bullets that left her unrecognizable. The brutal assault lasted only a few minutes, but its aftermath would grip the world for years to come. It was Lyle Menendez who made the emergency call a few hours later. The recording of his panicked voice screaming, "Someone killed my parents," became one of the most famous pieces of audio evidence in American crime history. The police quickly arrived at the house on Elm Drive, but what they found was nothing short of a bloodbath. Yet, at first glance, there were no signs of a break-in or robbery. The doors hadn't been forced open, and valuable belongings were left untouched. It seemed as if the attackers knew exactly what they were after and how to eliminate their victims. Initially, authorities had no reason to suspect the two brothers. Their alibis seemed solid. They claimed they had gone to the movies together that evening and then stopped by a local burger joint before coming home to discover their parents dead. Their emotional outbursts appeared genuine, and the police saw them as victims of a horrific crime. However, as weeks passed, cracks began to form in their story. What stood out was the behavior of Lyle and Eric. Instead of grieving children, devastated by sorrow, they seemed almost euphoric. They began spending enormous amounts of money they had inherited from their parents. Within weeks of the murders, they bought expensive sports cars, luxury watches, and adopted a flamboyant lifestyle that raised eyebrows. Lyle purchased a Porsche and a restaurant in Princeton, while Eric took private tennis lessons and spent money as if it meant nothing. Their extravagance soon aroused suspicion among friends, family, and eventually the police. The real turning point came when Eric, the younger of the two brothers, could no longer bear his guilt. Consumed by fear and emotional turmoil, he began conversations with Dr. Jerome Oziel, his psychologist. During one of their sessions, Eric broke down and confessed that he and his brother were responsible for the murder of their parents. Oziel was stunned by this confession and felt a moral and legal obligation to share it with the police. He had secretly recorded the sessions, and these tapes became crucial evidence in the subsequent investigation. On March 8, 1990, Lyle and Eric Menendez were arrested for the murder of their parents. The news hit the media like a bombshell. How could two wealthy, privileged young men, who seemingly had everything they could ever want, commit such a heinous act against their own parents? The trial that followed would become one of the most sensational and controversial criminal cases of the 1990s, dividing public opinion. In their defense, the Menendez brothers claimed they had been abused by their father for years. They painted a picture of Jose as a cruel tyrant who physically and sexually abused them. Their mother, Kitty, was portrayed as complicit, someone who ignored their suffering and lost herself in alcohol and pills. According to their lawyer, the brothers acted out of pure fear and desperation. They believed their parents were planning to kill them to keep the abuse a secret. It wasn't premeditated murder, they argued, but a desperate act of survival. Shocking details came to light during the trial. Eric described how his father had sexually abused him for years, and how he felt trapped in a house full of fear and violence. Lyle supported this story and recounted the physical abuse he had endured, and how he had spent years trying to protect his younger brother from their violent father. Their defense was heartbreaking, and it caused some in the public, and even some jurors, to feel sympathy for them. The trial was a media phenomenon. Every step, every testimony was widely covered by the press. The first trial ended in 1993 in a mistrial, with the jury unable to reach a unanimous decision. Some jurors were convinced of their guilt, while others believed they were victims of severe abuse. This led to a retrial in 1995, but this time, the trial was stricter. The new judge limited the amount of evidence about the alleged abuse that the jury could see, and this proved crucial. In 1996, Lyle and Eric Menendez were found guilty of the murder of their parents. The jury ruled that, while there may have been abuse, it did not justify the brutal murders they had committed. The brothers were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict was final. After their conviction, Lyle and Eric disappeared from the public eye, but their case continued to fascinate the public imagination. Was their crime the result of years of abuse and repression? Or were they cold-blooded killers, driven by greed and a desire for independence? The Menendez case symbolized not only a violent family drama, but also the complexity of power, abuse, and the psychological aftermath of trauma. To this day, Lyle and Eric remain in prison, now housed in the same facility. Both brothers have moved on with their lives in some ways. Lyle married in 1996, and Eric in 1999, both to women who reached out to them after watching their trials on television. Despite their imprisonment, they have both, in a sense, moved forward. The story of the Menendez brothers remains a mystery, a tale of wealth, family secrets, and the fatal consequences of abuse. It casts a harsh light on the dark side of human nature and continues to raise questions about guilt, victimhood, and the complex dynamics of family relationships. Whatever the case, the Menendez brothers will forever be associated with one of the most tragic and complex family dramas in American crime history. As of 2024, the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric, remain in prison. Both are serving life sentences without the possibility of parole. Interestingly, the brothers were reunited in the same prison, the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, California, in 2018. This reunion was notable as they had spent years apart in different prisons. Their reunion became possible after a request from Lyle, which was approved by the prison authorities. The brothers now work together in the prison and reportedly maintain a strong bond. Their case continues to attract public attention, particularly due to new allegations against their father that emerged in 2023, which have further fueled public support for their release. However, despite these developments, the brothers remain incarcerated for the foreseeable future. And that brings us to the end of today's deep dive into the chilling case of the Menendez brothers, a case that continues to raise questions about family dynamics, abuse, and the extent people will go to for freedom. But now, we want to hear from you. What did you think of this case? Do you believe the brothers were victims acting out of fear, or were they driven by greed and power? And more importantly, do you want to hear more cases like this? Let us know your thoughts. Drop a comment, leave a review, or reach out to us on social media. Your feedback helps shape the stories we cover next. So if you're craving more true crime mysteries, Be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us next time for another deep dive into the darker side of humanity. Until then, stay safe and stay curious. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.